which sucks, because then, like, your whole day is rough, and you can't focus, and then everything feels really bad, you know, because you're doubly anxious because you haven't had sleep.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's, like, the only, like, hardcore symptom I have. And then the way that it, you know, manifests generally is just, I don't know, just kind of like this low-grade buzzing, you know, that's kind of, like, chronically going on in the background and, like, always with me. Which, you know, kind of stinks because it's a little bit of, like, a joy sapper. This little buzzing in the background, so.
Yeah, it takes away the fun and the beauty of it all.
Yeah, and also it takes away your ability to be, like, present. Which, like, you know, most joy comes from those moments when you can be present. Yeah.
Why do you think, where do you think it's coming from? Like, what's kind of coming up for you?
I think at its most basic, I tend to react to change with anxiety. You know, I didn't have, like, the easiest upbringing, you know, like, I came from immigrants, like, we were very poor when I was younger, and we were literally struggling to survive, and, you know, there was just always this kind of, like, so I'm Irish, and Irish people always think catastrophically. It's sort of like our jam. And so there was always just, like, this sense of anxiety over new things, different things, you know, like, we were very suspicious of others, like, you know, we didn't let people in our house, and I kind of lost track. Where did I start? What was your original question? Anyway.
Why is it coming up, and sort of where is it coming from?
Yeah, so I think, you know, at heart, it's just sort of like a learned behavior that is very much part of me now. And also, like, I had been, you know, like, I was in the tech industry for, like, 12 years, and, you know, had done a lot in that career. And it was a very challenging career, but it was, like, really safe in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It was, like, I went to the office, like, you know, by the time I was there 7 or 8 years, like, I was the boss, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, like, really safe. I could kind of control my environment.
Right.
And now, you know, and it's, like, there's some safety in just, like, being in an office every day and, like, sitting behind a computer and going to meetings and, like, fulfilling obligations and someone telling you what to do when you do it. And now it's like the whole world's just mine.
Yeah.
And it's reducing a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, because you'd think, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, how many people can design their own life?
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a lateral move in terms of career shift. It's a very different, very different world that you're going into.
Exactly. Great point. And that's incredibly anxiety provoking, because I'm not good at it yet, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm used to being good at what I'm doing, right? And, like, I don't know, sometimes that's calming for a human being, you know, to feel competent.
Yeah.
And so it's a little tough at, like, you know, 42 years old to be like, boom, like, you're not competent anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely sensing a lot of pressure to, you know, have it figured out and be that, you know, control where you're at in this point. And, that's hard when you don't have that control.
Yeah, it's a good perspective you bring, because when you say it, I'm like, well, of course I feel that way. And why should I be able to control this? And why should I be good at this? You should not be good at this. Like, you know, so, like, when you say it back to me, I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting, you know, but for some reason in my head, I don't know, maybe I just have these, like, weird expectations.
what do you think those expectations are?
I think that, you know, growing up, there was just like a lot of pressure to compete. And, you know, it's like when you come from an immigrant family, it's just not the same for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't feel entitled in the way that, like, maybe a lot of people in your immediate circle do. And so, and there's a lot of explicit pressure that came from my parents about, like, no, like, you're going to be the best, you're going to succeed. And, like, I think it's because of the fear and pressure they felt, you know, like, not really having a place in this society yet and wanting it, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just, like, a lot of that sense of, like, the world is very scary to me unless I'm, like, succeeding and getting some sort of feedback that I'm doing well and, you know, carrying my weight and excelling. Yeah. It's just, it's a, you know, common refrain for me.
Definitely.
It's just hard because, you know, it blocks me from where I want to be and wanting to be in the moment. And, you know, I'm going into a career where I actually care about this career. And it's not about excelling or competing, you know, because that is just like some bullshit that I think got lumped on me when I was a kid. It's not really who I am. So, but it's like coming back for me, you know. It's like I have this sense of like who I want to be and what's really inside who I am inside and how I can bring that into my work. And then I have this old shit coming back, blocking me.
Right. Yeah, it can feel limiting in your ability to do what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it feels pretty annoying.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like it to go away.
Totally. And you're hearing this, like, both sides. It sounds like you're really aware of, you know, who you are and what you're capable of. And then there's this sort of voice of, be the best, excel.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's like conflicting messages.
Yeah, it depends, like, where I am in any given day, which voice is winning, you know. And, like, you know, for example, when I'm, you know, doing things that make me feel centered and make me feel very connected to myself, it's like, it's all the first thing that you've described. It's like, I know who I am, I'm confident, it's a confidence born of all good, positive things, and I know where I want to go, and I'm comfortable with it, and I'm so happy to be on this journey. Right, that's in the moments when I feel connected to myself.
Sure, yeah.
And then when I don't feel connected with myself, I'm like stuck in this real harsh, you know, space with a lot more judgment and negative and pressure, and I feel very far from myself.
Yeah, in a way it's a double-edged sword. There's this really judgmental side of wanting to be the best or wanting to excel and really know that you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And then there's the side of the amount of care that you have for whatever it is you're doing shines through and is something that I think you could leverage a little bit more in those situations. Like, especially considering the work you'll be doing, the amount of care that you have is, and the amount of importance you place on how you're doing is so important for you and your work, and I think it's actually a really positive thing.
You mean the sort of dichotomy is like a positive thing, or like the struggle?
No, I think the amount of concern and care that you have is a positive thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good way to look at it.
Not everyone, places that much importance on how they're doing at work and how they show up for these things.
Yeah.
I think the way that you present yourself is, it's really clear that this is important to you and
Right.
it's something that you want to succeed in and make an impact in. And
Yeah, that's really helpful to hear. I think I spend so much time kind of like seeing it through a really negative frame,
yeah,
as like, go away, I hate you.
right, that's what I'm getting.
Right. And like, in fact, it is born out of this like real true thing about me, which is I care.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never phoned anything in my entire life, and I really care.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of like it is a double-edged sword, and I think it's something I'm, really gonna have to actively work on moving into this new career,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a profession of caregivers,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
and it's like, but you have to exist there too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and manage that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really helpful.
How do you think you can, in those moments of judgment and feeling blocked and feeling like you can't ground yourself in who you are, how do you think you can get out of that and figure out how to remove the judgment?
God, it's so hard because it's sort of like my logical brain shuts down,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like awash in it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't come from a logical place, so it's like I want to logic it away, and it's really hard. I think that's why, like when I'm overwhelmed and there's like too much coming at me, that's really triggering.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing I'm trying to do is, build my life and manage my life in such a way where like I'm kind of in control a little more about how much I'm letting in, and actively monitoring myself to be like, okay, where are you at? What do you need? If you need to say no to something, that's okay. If you need to defer practicum to year 3, that is very okay, and that's a very good, choice for you and your self-care. So I think, it's kind of like it helps me to have that little mom inside myself, kind of like the mom I didn't have, right? That's like, don't worry, like, you gotta choose for you, and like, this is gonna work out, and so that does help. Like if I practice having her there,
Could you say more about that? How was she not there for you in those ways?
Yeah, my mom.
Yeah.
I just think like they were so like under fire themselves in this life, and she was just never able to teach me to be kind to myself. She was not kind to herself. And she died at 42 of an immune disease that very few people die from, and I think a big part of that was like she drove herself into the ground constantly, always. And it's just, so it's not something I learned, like being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
She was very kind to others. She was
Sure.
most kind to others, but not to herself. So like I didn't learn about being kind to yourself. I didn't learn about taking joy in little things or being present or you know, life was just like